Okay, hello YouTube. So I'm trying to pass or get my wire welding certification for the first time. I've been welding for about, I don't know, maybe 6 months now. Never had any experience in the past. Was hired on as a mechanic for a railroad, and I need to pass my certification. So here's just kind of the basics of it. Or when I was trying to find some information on it, there was just so much information that I didn't really, you're just overwhelmed by the amount of information. So here's just kind of a basic video of the basics of it, the basic steps, what I thought was difficult about it, and some tips that might be able to help you if you're trying to pass it. So the first step we're gonna have is you're gonna have something like this. You're gonna have two plates about 6 inches long, and you're gonna have a bevel in them. You just tack it together, two tacks at the tack here and a tack here, and you just got to fill the gap. For my certification, I had to do a horizontal, a vertical up, and also an overhead weld. So 3 welds. Your next step is just, lay your weld in there. You're going to do a root pass, a few passes to fill it up, and then you're grind it out in the back, and then a backing pass. Once you have that done, it looks pretty good. You're going to grind it smooth. Once you have that done, you're going to make your measurements and cut your strips out of that plate. So once you have that, then you're going to take your strip and make it look nice and pretty and kind of round the edges on it, and then they're ready to go in the bender. Hopefully it won't crack or look too bad. So those are your basic steps. Not too crazy, but things that I thought were kind of difficult about this. The one thing I really had trouble with was my first pass, my root pass and my vertical up. I couldn't use a backing plate on any of my welds, so I was getting a lot of, the metal would get too hot and it would fall out the back or start to gob down, and it just, it just wasn't good. It wasn't going to pass, and it just takes a couple attempts. You just got to practice and really work with your settings. You have to work with your settings almost more than your technique. If you have your settings right, it's not going to be that tough. But if you have your settings wrong, it's going to be, you really got a tough plate to weld in front of you. So, just keep working on it, keep practicing. Another thing I thought was really tough was the backing pass on my horizontal. This is actually my second attempt at my horizontal, because the first time I screwed it up, I had a lot of undercut on my backing pass because it wants to droop as you weld it. Let's see if I can get in the light. As you weld it, it wants to droop down. It wants to fall away from the metal and create undercut on the top. And the guy that's testing my weld said that, get my glove off here, said that if you can take your nail and catch and kind of feel a ridge there, then that's too much undercut, and it's not going to pass. He didn't even take it. He said take it back and re-weld it and do another plate. So I didn't even grind that one smooth. But on that, it just took me a couple tries, and I really had to work with my settings. Asked a couple of guys around here like how to do it, and they said that the horizontal is actually the hardest weld for them to do. So a lot of stuff I read out there said that the horizontal is one of the easier welds, but I really had trouble doing the horizontal, especially the backing pass, to make sure you didn't get any overhang or any undercut. Another thing that was kind of maybe not tough about it, but dangerous, was the overhead. If you don't have a lot of practice doing overhead welding, make sure that you have all your PPE on, your personal protective equipment. Put your earplugs in, have your safety glasses on underneath your weld, or underneath your welding hood, because you're gonna have a lot of stuff spitting at you. You're gonna have you know, stuff falling on your crotch, stuff falling on your pants and your boots and on your hands. Make sure you got your welding gloves on, because it's just kind of a nasty weld to do. You just got to work on the position, and I mean, once you start feeling some heat on your legs and stuff like that, you're going to find out that that position's not going to work. So you just got to keep working on a better position and make sure that you're not going to catch on fire. Actually caught my pants on fire at one point, and you're supposed to have a continuous weld, so you're feeling some heat on your pants and you don't want to stop because it's going to fail your weld. But you know, another reason to, you know, have a leather apron on or something, just protect yourself, because you don't want to stop your weld at all costs. So really protect yourself. You don't want to, you know, get a burn for trying to just pass a weld test. Have some protective equipment on. Some tips that I can tell you: get help from the guys at your shop. If you're working with somebody, or you know, if you have resources at your shop, ask them for help. Say, hey, you know, I'm trying to get this done. What are your tips? How did you do it? What are things to avoid? And usually they're going to be pretty willing to help you. They're going to come over, and you know, they're usually pretty interested to help out someone that's new and, you know, get them on the right path. So the guys at my shop are really helpful. One of the guys actually used to, I don't know what you call it, used to inspect the welds or test the welds at our shop. So he doesn't do that anymore, but he has a lot of experience. So after each pass, I would kind of, in the beginning, I would take it over to him and ask him how it looked, and he would kind of tell me what's looking good, what's looking bad. And even from looking at that, he'd say, well, you're going too fast, or you're going too slow, or you're too hot, your wire speed's too slow. I mean, that kind of stuff and technique. But what really helped me was the employee would help me set up the machine for what I needed to do, and that helped me out a ton. Like what your arc should look like as you weld, what it should sound like as you weld. It should sound smooth. There shouldn't be a lot of popping. Shouldn't be a lot of like as you see your arc, it should just look like an orange cone. Like it's like a like kind of like a, if you were to be watering like your garden with one of those little misters, like kind of a sprayer comes out in a cone. That's kind of what you want your arc to look like, but in like a much smaller version. You want it to be smooth. You want it to look like it's like just spraying the metal or spraying the arc onto your plates in a nice, smooth, consistent way. So that kind of goes to my next tip: is practice. You know, set your stuff up before you're going to try this, and you can't just practice, you know, however you want. You can't go from a horizontal, setting your machine up, and then try an overhead. Set something up where your plate's above your head in the position that you're going to be welding, and practice. You know, just don't use a test plate for it. Just use a, you know, piece of scrap metal out of the dumpster and polish it or grind it smooth, and, you know, make sure it's good metal. So you're going to have the same type of arc, but yeah, just, you know, you have to practice. You can't just go into this stuff blind and expect to pass your first try. Really have your machine set up as well as good technique, and that's going to help you a ton. What else was I going to say about that? Anyway, yeah, one thing that I would warn about is, once you have your stuff done, oh, I remember what I was going to say. Between each pass, make sure that you weld, or that you grind. You're going to get a lot of shit for grinding a lot, but you know, if you're trying to pass this for the first time, you're not an expert. Your welds aren't going to be perfect. You might have a little shit in there. So, I mean, even if it looks good, grind it out. The guy that used to inspect them said the only way that you're going to fail it is if you don't grind the stuff out. You know, if you have a good, smooth-looking weld, even after you grind, then you should be fine. But I mean, just grind it out. If it takes you hours of grinding, you just got to grind it out. Make sure it's good, make sure it's clean before you keep going. This is not something that you're going to do. I mean, some people can do it in a day if they have some experience, but for me, it took me about a week time of getting these welds just right, and and, you know, getting it done. And of course I haven't even passed it yet, so maybe it'll be a little more time. And I'm sure one of them is going to fail, so I'll have to do it again. But a big tip is to make sure you grind it clean. Get a die grinder, and really get it in there, and take a flashlight and look at it with all angles. And if you see any nasty stuff in there where, you know, you don't get pure fusion, then grind it again, get it clean, and do it again. And if you're grinding so much that your plate starts looking like Frankenstein, then, you know, you may want to start over. Just use that as a test plate, and they're not going to run out of metal anytime soon. So just, you know, give it another shot. Practice a little more and try and weld it again. What I was going to say was, once you have your welds done, you have to cut it into strips, or at least I do for my tests. Make sure that you measure really carefully. The welding part's definitely the hardest. I just cut it with the torch, but make sure that you cut it to the width they want, and give yourself a little bit of room, because you do have to grind them. You have to grind it kind of, if you can see that's kind of rounded. You're gonna have to grind that a little bit to make it round. So don't cut right on the line, because if you grind it and it ends up being too narrow, then they're not going to bend it. They're going to fail it. So, you know, measure twice, cut once, as they say. You don't want to screw that up. Another thing that I did that was really stupid, it'll probably result in at least one of these failing, was I was kind of in a hurry to make this video. And I went ahead and cut these, and they were on the ground, and I got a bottle of water and poured some water on it. Well, I mean, it's gonna cool it fast. You can kind of see some reaction there. I mean, it's gonna cool it fast, and I'll be able to handle it and mess with it. But what it's gonna do is it's gonna make it brittle. Rapid cooling in steel and metals makes them brittle. It's gonna be really strong, but it's not what you want to do if this is going to be bent. So that's my kind of dumbass moment of the month, is trying to rapidly cool these. So do not ever rapidly cool any of your test plates. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious, but you really do not want to like, you know, put a pass on these and then rapidly cool it so you can handle it and grind it and do whatever. Do not rapidly cool them. Yeah, hopefully they'll pass. Anyway, hopefully that'll help you. Hopefully you guys will pass your exam, pass your certification. If not, just do it again. If you can't pass the certification, it means, you know, something's wrong with your technique or how you set it up, or, you know, something. So it's, you know, it's just telling you something about it. But just keep trying and you'll eventually pass, no worries. Hopefully these will pass. Hopefully this video helped. See ya.